chair. Well, there he goes. He's right there standing with the glasses. So I'm not
Where
sure.
do they want it? Where do they want it?
That's a good question.
You can take this one. I don't
Oh,
know.
he got one already.
Oh,
Okay, he's got one.
okay. Do you want this chair? Oh, thank you.
Outside, so if something goes
Okay.
catastrophic, just comes right out of this.
Okay.
Otherwise, I'll probably take control.
Okay, don't shut it all the way.
Yeah,
Perfect, thank you.
that's good. You control this through here and
Yep.
this.
Got the mic.
Cool.
This one is working. Yeah, I can hear. All right. you're going to be here?
Yeah, how have you been? He was worried about you. She said you had to park in the back and walk all the way up. Okay, good morning. Can you guys hear me okay? Good morning, good morning. We have a lively bunch today. I'm excited to see you all. Thank you for being here. So it's been a year since we all met last. Doesn't feel like it. I think we've been very busy, at least here at St. Coletta. Can you guys hear me okay? Good volume? Okay. Thank you for coming. This is always a very special weekend here, and we're very thankful for everybody who makes the drive or the flight in to be here and to just listen to what we have to say this morning and enjoy and celebrate our lovely individuals at the picnic later on today. We will take questions if you could hold those to the end. We might actually cover some of your questions and the number of presentations we have this morning for you. There are 3 speakers today. I'm going to get everything kind of started and going. Sherry Whitmer's here, our Vice President of Residential. She has a lot to talk to about our programming. And then Mario Dielka, who is our Senior Director of Franciscan Values and Mission, will also be speaking today as well. There I am. Okay, and welcome to anyone. We are live streaming this, so if anyone's listening from home, thank you for being here as well. Some of these slides might look familiar if you were at the presentation last year. It's really just, honestly, just to offer you guys kind of an update on what we've been working on and our focus. So one of the things we talked about last year was the corporate structure of St. Coletta. So it's a little more complex than just one company. We're a number of companies combined. And so how it stands currently is St. Coletta is split up into 2 different corporations. One is the operating side, which we call St. Coletta Wisconsin, Inc. The other side holds our investments, and that's our St. Coletta Foundation. And if you see, they both have different boards of directors and then different ad hoc and subcommittees that fall underneath those. Below St. Coletta of St. Coletta of Wisconsin, Inc., we do have 3 HUD corporations, and these all have different tax IDs. They are audited separately, and so those make up the 8 HUD houses that are here, all in Jefferson. And then above all of this is the governing body of the Sisters of St. Francis of Assisi. So last year we talked a little bit about the changes that will come at that level. So they are actively still pursuing what we call divestment. And so the sisters are getting older. They are looking to kind of unwind legally from the corporate ministries, 8 of them that still exist. And they're looking to stand up a group of people called a public juridic person. And this is really a group of 9. It's going to be 1 sister, and it will have 2 individuals that represent each organization. So what you're going to see is out of the 8 corporate ministries, 4 are considered pontifical. So we will report through this PJP directly to Rome. The other corporate ministries don't fall under the PJP umbrella because they're going to report to a diocese. And so we are, along with St. Coletta of Illinois, St. Elizabeth School, and Cardinal Cushing Center, both of the last 2 are on the East Coast, going to combine under this one PJP, this new governing body. Nothing at St. Coletta will change beyond that. So typically, most decisions can be made at either our organization level or the board level, or if they do get involved in terms of the sisters and their reserve powers, things like approving board members, approving selling of property, purchasing of property, lease agreements, things like that. So the only thing that really changes is that the board will have to seek approval from a different kind of body, a governing body, and not the sisters. So kind of where are we today? So the members of the PJP have been selected. We are aware of those 9 individuals. We are considered the host site for the entire PJP. So even though the PJP encompasses 4 different corporate ministries, the reality is this is kind of their home base moving forward. The sisters plan to have a retreat here in October just to start working with those individuals, because while a couple of them might be very familiar with St. Coletta, Wisconsin, those same individuals also have to get very familiar with St. Coletta of Illinois, St. Elizabeth School, and Cardinal Cushing Center. And so the petition that the sisters have to file with the Vatican in order to stand up the PJP is currently there. It has to go to a number of different offices and kind of get a rubber stamp along the way. And so we have not got official approval yet that we are seeking to do this, but we know that's the direction it's heading. So my best guess, and this is just me personally, is that we'll see that transition take place in the next 12 to 18 months. So, kind of changing topics. So, more about St. Coletta, Wisconsin. So, how did we do financially this last fiscal year? So there's a couple key takeaways. Instead of going through our consolidated income statement, things like that, I just thought I would summarize and make it a little bit easier for you. So our revenue was up by $470,000. And really the reason behind this is because if you recall, if you've read in the news, last October, Governor Evers took $258 million of ARPA funds, and these were funds that were set to expire at the end of June, and he put them into the long-term care system, which is the Medicaid bucket that funds a number of our individuals here. When he did that, he not only did that, but he actually established a tiered rate system that based on a person's acuity, that a rate was then decided based on tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. So for us, the good news was most of the people, even if they fell in the lowest rate tier, actually saw an increase in the funding that we received. And so where that kind of took us at the end of the day was typically before that point in time, we were getting about $13.25 an hour for care. And then we started receiving $15.75 an hour for care. So I'll take every penny. I mean, it's nice, it definitely helps, but the reality is we cannot get people to apply for caregiver jobs until it's $18 to $19 an hour. So let me say that again. So basically, even with the new funding rates, we are losing anywhere between $3 to $4 an hour of care on each person every day, every month to every year. And so there still is a significant loss between what it costs to care for folks here versus what we're getting paid. But we had some losses in Illinois due to they had new funding down there, but at the end of the day, we were still at $470,000. Compensation and benefits. The compensation line here was actually to the good, $110,000. Where we struggled this year was almost $700,000 in unbudgeted medical expenses. So if you do not realize this, St. Coletta is self-insured, and while it does actually save us money to utilize brokers, build our own medical and health plans, it still is extremely expensive to pay for health care. And all of you know this, right? You all go to doctors, everyone's shaking their head. And so we were smarter this year about how we were going to budget those medical claims in the future, but getting hit with $693,000 of healthcare claims that were unexpected took a bit of a hit to us. Expenses in terms of supplies, building and occupancy, et cetera, things like that, we actually were $266,000 better to budget. And I thank the leaders that had an involvement in that. So all of the leaders, the message all year long was, please watch your budgets, get creative how you're spending money, consider if you need to even spend money, and let's see where we fall at the end of the year. And so we were $266,000 better. And I do thank our senior leaders and our mid-level managers for that. Operational expense, another good news story. So we spent about $700,000 less on operations this year than we did the year prior. And so the goal here is to slowly make some baby steps to continue that as we go. But with that said, because of the cost of Medicaid and the challenges there, operationally we're at $2.6 million for an operational loss, which is better than the budgeted $2.8 million we were expecting to lose. So, because of our Wonder Fund development and our donors, you guys in this room, anyone who's been giving toward the organization, we actually ended up with a total net surplus of $1.2 million this year. Which is great. It's great. And while that's a wonderful number, I think as an organization and as leaders, we're still challenged to realize at the end of the day, there's still work to be done here. And so as we looked into next year, we put together a very tight budget. And one of the things that we spent a lot of time doing this year is lobbying at the state level. So if you understand kind of state legislator, if you understand how Wisconsin state budget works, every 2 years, there's a new budget that goes into effect. And so this year was the year that was happening. And typically, we spend a lot of time and energy getting in front of different legislators. We talk to the Joint Finance Committee. We get in front of the Senate Committee on Health. There's an Assembly side committee of long-term health and aging. And we really talk to them about the challenges that we're seeing with funding and how we need them to kind of stand up on behalf of us. And so this year, there are two things in the budget that really could make a big difference to St. Coletta. One is continuing the cost of those new rates. And so those new rates that Governor Evers set forth are called the minimum fee schedule. And so that was a big ask because the ARPA funds that were federal dollars expired at the end of June. And the goal was to keep that going with state money. And if you know Wisconsin, the Joint Finance Committee is made up of mostly Republicans who have a more conservative approach to spending. And so that was the big ask. Please continue the cost of the the cost to continue this care and at that price. And so really that came at a price tag about $203 million to the state. It was a big ask. The other pool of money that we really utilize well is called Direct Care Workforce money. It's DCWI payments. And what this is, it's a pool of funds that the government puts into the Wisconsin government, and then by an algorithm, it's determined what each service provider is going to receive. And then the nice thing about that money is it's untouchable by the MCOs. So we have this middleman, these MCOs that we typically negotiate contracts with, and they're allowed to keep a profit. They're not allowed to touch any of the money in that pool of funds. And so it's been in the budget cycle now for about 6 or 7 years, or 6 or 7 budget cycles. And so we were fairly confident we'd receive that, but that was also the push. And so for legislators, the idea was, you can be the hero in this story. We've got greedy MCOs, and so what we really need from you is to protect these pool of funds that they're not allowed to touch. And so for the budget this year, these are the new rates that we are able to see, and we asked them to consider the cost of caring. Now when Jenny Stolenwerk here, my controller, she's in the back. Give Jenny a round of applause and her team. I could literally not do this without Jenny and her team. And so what Jenny did is we were very smart, because during budget season, the answers to these questions were an unknown. So why budget for money that we're not sure if we're going to get? And so when we put together the budget, it did turn out to be break even based on some gifted money, but it didn't include the new rates. But as luck would have it, those rates were approved. And so that actually is going to offer St. Cloetta on the revenue line almost $2 million more than what we were expecting to get for the next, not 1 year, but for 2 years. And I think, it's absolutely wonderful. And not only that, but the Direct Care Workforce money was also approved as well. And so this will really help us moving forward, and more so because in the state of Illinois, they like to mess with us a little more, the state of Illinois. So they agreed to do an 80 cent an hour increase for caregiving starting in January, and that's normal for them. But what then they decided to do is take away how many hours they're willing to fund each person, removing 1.2 hours a week from us. It's kind of a slap in the face, like here's the money and we're going to take that back. And so we're projecting about a $75,000, $73,000 loss. Not really sure what that looks like until those numbers really come out, but knowing there's a loss in Illinois, this increase of funding in Wisconsin is just that much sweeter. So we're still going to operate at a loss. I need that to be understood kind of by the group, but this money will definitely help make things a little bit easier over the next 2 years. So we do have a foundation that does have a reserve of money, and last year around this time it was about $5 million. We just finished our first year with Baird, and so Baird's done an excellent job for us. We saw about $563,000 come in for growth. Increase, interest, things like that. And so right now, we're actually a little bit above $6 million for that reserve money. Now, this is tappable money in the event something happens here and we need it. We really don't want to have to make a draw from the organization and from the foundation. We have not done so in a couple years. We've been very lucky with gifted money not to have to do that. And so the idea of this is to continue to grow this pool of money. And then also, we did launch quietly our endowment campaign last year and started having conversations. And so the foundation is also the same place that money is going to be, those funds are going to be stored. So for the endowment campaign, we launched last year in July. The first group that we approached was our board of directors on both sides, the foundation and Wisconsin Inc. We also reached out to the development committee and then the steering committee as well, the individuals that sit on that. That group alone has pledged and gifted $1 million. So if you are in the board, or if you are on the board, raise your hand. If you're on the development committee, you were on the board, you were a part of this. Thank you so much for doing that. That established a foundation, and a foundation that was really needed to get this moving. And so we've had conversations beyond that point. We also went ahead and I decided it was time that we hired someone specifically to focus on this. This is a critical initiative to our future. It's an important thing to get done. And so in January, we did hire Kurt Saderbach, who's here, I think. Kurt, he's waving his hand in the back. And Kurt is going to be helping us have these conversations, spread the story about why the Life Without Limits campaign is so important and why it's really important that we all consider engaging in it. And then the next steps for us are family discussions. So if you're in this room, you may receive a call or a letter from Kurt. Please be open to have that conversation. It doesn't mean that we're looking for a commitment that day, but it's important that we talk to you about what you want to see that happens at St. Cloetta and how you can play a part in all of this. And so this was kind of a big deal this year. Jenny and I met at the end of the fiscal year, and we did have a small net surplus from this last year of operating. And we talked about what we can do that makes this special and to show that we're committed as an organization to getting the job done. And so we were able to basically gift to the endowment this year a $250,000 donation from St. Cloud back to the foundation. Now, this is a huge milestone for this organization. We have never once given money back to the foundation. We're typically taking draws out. And so for us, it's not a giant amount. It's not going to get the job done in terms of the $10 million goal, but it's a step in the right direction. So we're very proud as leaders to be able to do this for the foundation, to show how serious we are, just to be committed to what we're doing. So for the endowment campaign, this is kind of where it shakes out. This is our first year. So it's a 5-year goal. It's for $10 million. We've received over $2 million in cash. We have an additional $300,000 in pledges, so total cash right now for the endowment is $2.3 million. We also look at legacy gifts, and gifts that are secured toward the endowment or toward the sustainability of the mission. We add those in a different line item. So right now we're about $2.7 million. So if you look at the $6 million that we have in reserves, the over $2 million in cash, right now our reserve level is up to about $8 million, which is the highest it's been in a number of years. And so again, 12 months later, we're not necessarily exactly where we're going to be at the end of this all, but we're definitely making strides in the right direction. So moving kind of in a different direction now, you might have realized that I used this slide last year. This is just something that I am really passionate about. So the goal of St. Coletta is to look at these 3 buckets and to maintain our focus on mastering our current operations. So programs, people, and financial performance. And so without stealing a lot of Sherry's thunder, I did want to just touch on some of the things that we were able to achieve in these 3 areas. So for programs, we put in a significant investment in facility improvements. I just counted the other day, we did 476 projects within our homes that equated to about $991,000 in this last year. We are poised well when it comes to the branding of our homes, and we understand it's important for your loved ones that they live in quality facilities. We moved our Illinois headquarters, so I've got a couple folks from Illinois here. So we actually had a day program in our admin offices in 2 different buildings in the same parking lot in an industrial park. And we were able and lucky enough to find a much nicer space, and so we spent the year signing over a new lease and moving those folks. Their day programs, the outcomes that they see, the participants and our staff are much happier now in their new home. We had a group of individuals that were starting their day at UW-Whitewater, but always coming back to Jefferson at the end of the day, and they're outing focused. And we decided that we were going to pull back the lease at UW-Whitewater, save us some money, and move everyone back to Jefferson. Now they just have a different hub to start out with at the morning. Their staffing didn't change. What they do every day doesn't change, but just looking to find efficiencies in how we operate every day. We also had a Genesis Day program that was lacking a program coordinator, and so we chose to move them under the umbrella of our Excel program. The staff did not change, their curriculum didn't change, but again, we're trying to find a way to operate as efficiently as possible here. We have started the first phases and completed bringing our HUD management in-house. There's a gal in accounting, her name is Hadley, that spent this last year really focused on managing our HUD houses. And if you've ever worked with the federal government or anything like that, or any of these kinds of federal agencies, there's lots of logistics, there's lots of paperwork, there's lots of documentation. So for those 8 HUD houses, we've moved that management inside. We still have a ways to go. It's been a learning curve, to be honest. But it's, again, trying to whittle down the reality of needing third parties to help us out and things like that. We're trying to do more things on our own here. And then we went into the year looking at our transportation services. So we were providing external transports to non-St. Coletta folks. If you needed to go to a doctor's appointment and you couldn't drive, if you wanted to go to the airport, things like that. And that was set to triple our insurance cost. And so we were going to go from a $100,000 premium to a $300,000 premium. So we made the decision to eliminate those external transports and really give the benefit of the doubt to our transportation team of looking at ways they could assist our homes during the day when they're not riding routes. And I'll let Sherry provides some of that. Under the people category, because we are self-insured, we spent a lot of time looking at our medical plans, and so we had a number, they were a bit confusing, and so we ended up kind of combining 2 of them together, and we call it the Unified Plan, and it offers, we have some of the best health care, I'd like to say, at St. Coletta, we really do, and so we were able to provide our staff with the best health plan possible, limit the confusion, but still make sure that those payments help to cover some of the costs of those claims in the future. we have a crosswalk here in Jefferson. And so we've unfortunately had 2 different accidents at this crosswalk. Both were near fatal. And so we spent a lot of time working with the individuals that cross the crosswalk. We've created safety training videos, a risk agreement so they understand, their families understand there is a risk involved with doing that. And we want to make sure that that's the safest. And so we're currently working with the city and the county. We're going to get some new lights. We're going to have it repainted. But just being mindful of how can we do things here to just make life a little bit easier and safer. This whole building went through a building security assessment that was conducted by law enforcement. They came in, they looked at different weak points, things like that. And so we currently have new building security established. So while clients are here during the day, while staff is here during the day, no one can come and go without a key fob. And if you do, it's through the main door. And so there's lots of other emergency alertness procedures that are in place as well that we were working on this year, just to make sure that when we're here, we're being smart and being safe. Oh, I went backwards. And then we did a restructure. So in in February of this year, we did a restructure that focused on basically giving residential, our biggest program, as many tools in the toolbox as they needed to get the job done. So transportation suddenly changed where they weren't doing external transports and they really were focused inwardly on our clients here. We looked at admissions and decided that admissions doesn't have to be this reactive approach where we just receive an inquiry and then we assess the person and determine if there's a home. We want to get proactive. We want to find the right people for peer matches. We want to find the right kinds of families. And so we're looking at building kind of a pipeline and a wait list. So if there is an opening, that we are being smart of who we're admitting at St. Coletta. And so I'll talk to the restructure just here more in a second. For the financial performance, one of the things that these DCWI payments that we noticed last year when we first started all this, Jenny realized that we got paid a significantly less payment that we usually do. So we received about $86,000 and we were supposed to get $400,000. So we went right up the chain of command at the state. We talked to the state Medicaid director, and what they ended up finding is the algorithm that one of our largest MCOs was using was incorrect. And they kind of credited us as being not the whistleblower, but the person to find this, and it took us months. When did we actually get the payment? October? Yeah. So it took 4 months longer than what we were expecting, but we were the ones, thankfully, because Jenny and her team are so great at this, she's the one that alerted to us, hey, wait a second, like we're being shortchanged here. And so that's a huge game changer, the difference between $400,000 and $86,000. So we fought a little bit over the summer, but we were able to get that accomplished. We launched our $10 million campaign. We invested in a person to help us do that. And we increased our reserves. We went for over 15%, going from $5 million to over $6 million, and that's not even including the $2+ million that we've received already for the endowment. So this is just the current organizational chart. It's a little bit hard to see, but basically the purple color is the sisters and the board. Anything in blue is what I directly oversee. So that's development and marketing, our vocational day programs, Mario's position in Franciscan Values and Ministry, Jenny as our controller, our HR department, and our IT department. The shift for the restructure focused everything else under Sherry and her team. So Sherry has the Illinois program, the Wisconsin program for residential. She has Bobby Ladwig, our director of regulatory compliance, our home maintenance department, our transportation department. We erected a new nursing department. So last year at this time, if you were here, you heard me talk a lot about, I want to get really good at the medical side of care here. And so instead of having multiple nurses report to an individual separately, we created a department where Dan Golson, our most seasoned nurse here, is now the director of nursing, and the nurses all report to him. And they all work directly with Sherry to work on your loved one's care. And that's really important because there's lots of conversations that take place at the nursing level, and I wanted to have a medical professional that oversaw the rest of our medical professionals here. And then Nicole Stiles took on a new role as our senior director of admissions and case management, and that's a piece that I'll have Sherry talk to as well. So this is just some of the photos of our new program in Illinois. A number of you don't really get down there, but this is the day program space, and what you don't see to the right of this picture and kind of behind is all these different offices. So they're all different breakout program rooms. Some are focused on health and wellness, some are focused on music. One is specifically for behavioral meetings, things like that. And then it comes with a kitchen, fully accessible bathrooms, and then on the right-hand side is just a portion of the offices for our staff. And so this was one of the biggest things that we accomplished this year. I told you last year I don't want to be building, buying, and growing. I want to get good at what we're already doing. This was a need, and it's done such wonderful things for the people that we serve down there in that program and our staff. So the last thing I just want to talk about is our strategic plan. We did it a little bit differently this year. Can you raise your hand if you participated in my survey? Anyone fill out the survey? Good. See some nods. Thank you for doing that. So how in the past strategic planning used to take place was we'd take a select group of people, we'd go up to the cabin, and we'd kind of spend a day talking about a SWOT analysis and things like that. And I really wanted to go about it differently this year, where I wanted to give everyone the chance to have input if they were interested in doing so. And so what we did is we put out a survey. We put it out to our families and our guardians. We put it out to all of our staff members. Every single person on both of our boards of directors took it, and then we had a client group. So we have an advocacy group of clients here called Consumer Leadership Council. So we use one of their quarterly meetings to sit and talk about what they want. What are your hopes and dreams? What do you like about St. Coletta? What do you want to see changed about St. Coletta? And so we tried to get everybody's input that was interested in doing that. And then as a senior leader group, we sat down and had 2 long sessions of our own, because ultimately at the end of the day, it's truly the senior leaders that have to get the job done and to execute all these plans. And so as a senior leader team, one of the things we did is I had a worksheet and I gave it out to all my team and I said, okay, magic wand stuff. If we can do anything here and look like anything, what does that look like? And I gave them like 15 minutes. They wrote down their answers. We talked about it. It was big stuff, like big hopes and dreams and all this great stuff. And I said, okay, these are all super ideas. And then the second worksheet I handed out, I sent it around and I said, okay, so how are we going to get there now? And so that led to a lot of really wonderful conversation and wonderful ideas. So what we basically then did was we took all this data, your input, our board members' input, the client's input. We took all of our staff and we built a plan out of it. And it's a bold plan, but I believe it's very realistic and doable. And what came from that is basically, I'm going to skip this slide for a second. So what came from that is 4 pillars. And this is, again, the areas of focus that we will continue to focus on until we get them just right. And so for us, that's people, programs, financial stewardship, and spirituality. Not in that order, necessarily. But that's ultimately where we're going with this. And so one of the other things that we did as a senior leader team is we looked at the mission statement. So we've had a mission statement. I've been here I'm going on 14, 15 years. So we've had the same mission statement. And at some point in time, well before most of us were senior leaders, they changed the mission statement and that component that says we support persons with developmental and other challenges. And it always bothered me the word disabilities wasn't in there, because as a marketing person, like that's what we're doing. But we started to talk about using people first language. Disabilities kind of has a negative tone to it. We want to have a more positive spin. So we did go ahead and change our mission statement to say we support individuals with diverse and unique abilities. And I like the way that sounds. I like the way it resonates. And even though this is a logistical nightmare to change all your marketing materials and everything that your mission statement is on, we felt it was the right time and the right thing to do. And so just introducing our new mission statement. The vision statement has that same component in, so it was replaced. But we were really happy to do that. And I think that speaks better to what we do here every single day. So just to do this, if you haven't read through the strategic plan, you do have a copy in your folders. But just to talk about some of the key themes here. And so the very first one is one that we by far heard the most, communication, right? Has anyone struggled in this room communicating with people here, or has staff members, the staff member, have we had trouble? Absolutely. And so not just trying to make this an afterthought, but really to focus on how we're going to make that change happen and how we're going to do it right. And so one of the areas we're looking at is staff-to-staff communication, and then the other area is going to be how we communicate with all of you. And if you look at the strategic plan, it's a 3-year plan. At the very end of the plan, we have a goal where I would really love to see a portal that you guys can log into, where you can see medical appointments, where you can see recreational events, where you can pay for those rec events if you want to attend them, where you can see what's going on at St. Coletta. And it's going to take us a while, so I'm going to ask for your patience in this area, because there's products that exist out there like Epic and MyChart and things like that. Those all come with a very steep price tag. So we have to have conversations. Are we doing this externally? Are we going to lean on another company to help us? But that is the direction in terms of communication I would like to go. I think it would benefit all of us if we had one place we could all log into and really get all those answers as soon as possible. Staff training was another piece. Sherry will talk to that. That's definitely a huge focus moving forward. Making sure we have a positive organizational culture here. Your team and your caregivers are wonderful people. They are burnt out. They are tired. They work 15, 20 hours of overtime. And as an organization, I want to take responsibility and make sure that we're doing what we can to protect their mental health, their physical health. And so we have a lot of plans in place to how can we do that and support our employees in the best way possible. And then building more partnerships. We always could know, we want to know who you know. We want to build partnerships with community vendors in our area, and so focusing on that. For programs, balancing the program capacity with staffing and financial capabilities. And so what we looked at here is we've got a number of things that we need to focus on. We are giving a lot more hours of care than what we're getting paid for. And that is one of the challenges. When you have an organization that's losing $2 or $3 million a year, how are you going to close that gap truly? And so there might be someone like Jimmy who is supposed to get 15 hours a week. He's getting 25. Well, every time we offer 10 more hours a week to Jimmy that we're not getting paid for, that's $20 plus an hour that we're having to provide for free. So there's a lot of things we want to look at. The first thing we're going to start with is master schedules, how they're created, how many hours are we actually getting funded for, and if we need to get funded for more, that's a fight that we're going to have to take up with the MCOs. Addressing the evolving needs of our aging population, very important as well. No one's getting younger in this room, guys. Nobody, including myself. I probably have some more gray hairs than I did last time this year. And so it's really important. So we are lucky in Jefferson to have a lot of aging in place and accessible housing. That is not the case in our Illinois program. So we have a lot of two-story homes, lots of stairs. That's not going to bode well in the next 10 years. So we really need to come up with a plan in place to make sure that we're making sure all of our facilities are accessible. And then health services, I talked a little bit about this. We want to bring more people to us. We want to bring the providers in, and we want to focus heavily on the medical piece because as people age, so do their medical supports. And redeveloping recreation programs. So we listened to you. A lot of the surveys said, you know, to be honest, guys, it is getting very expensive for recreational. Like we are, you know, a cooking class is $70. Well, we cook every night in our houses. Why can't we pick one of those nights in a month and make that a special cooking class? And so there's going to be recreational activities that we're going to try to include in the residential program on nights and weekends, and then save our rec team to put on the really big stuff. The proms, the pilgrimage to Holy Hill, like we're going to Disney World, like that's my goal one day. But that's really the focus here is if you're going to pay for something as a parent, you know, I want you to feel like you're getting the value's worth and so is your loved one. So we're going to redo our recreational programs a bit. For financial stewardship, we're going to be looking at adding to our development team, making sure we're having enough conversations to keep contributions moving. We're also going to look in the next 3 years to achieve 90% of that $10 million endowment goal. And then also look at potentially how else could we look for a revenue line within this organization that makes sense for what we're already doing. We're also going to look at operational efficiencies. Jenny and her team, she's going to constantly be auditing what we're doing. So this year, she was smart enough, we opened Walmart business accounts, Amazon business accounts. Those are tax-free. So every time we're going to buy groceries at the store, if the leader isn't set up appropriately with a tax-exempt card, we're paying tax on that. Well, every dollar adds up to be something. So where can we get smart about, again, how we're operating? So we're going to look into that. I also would like to see achieving break even in our operational areas by 75% of most of them. So 3/4 of it to break even in the next 3 years as well. I want to strengthen our advocacy and policy engagement. We have a couple families in this room that like to advocate and talk to their legislators. I'd like to build like a family-focused task force. So in the next 2 years, that's right, I see you guys. In the next 2 years that we have a group of people willing to go to bat for us when it comes to the funding conversation, because that will never stop at the state level. And then for spirituality, we're going to support the sisters in their divestment process, being not only the host site for the PJP, but helping any other way we can. We want to increase the training to our leaders for spirituality, making sure that they're always keeping those Franciscan values in mind as we're moving forward. And we want to ensure that we're continuing the fulfillment of our mission. And so we love the other 4 ministries or the other 3 ministries that make up the 4 under the PJP. So we're talking about adding an event that brings us and aligns us all together and keeps that bond going. I feel like I talked over 20 minutes. Is that true? Okay. 100 years? Oh, it just felt like 100 years? Okay. All right. Okay. I'm going to introduce Sherry Whitmer, and she's our Vice President of Residential. Thank you so much.
So I don't have very much to say. She said it all. So, all right. So focus last year, I kind of went back and looked at what I talked about last year as my first year here. So I looked back to see what did we talk about, what were our focuses. So communication, that's still a focus for us. It's, it's frustrating for families, it's frustrating for, staff. Everybody gets frustrated that we don't have always good communication. It's better. So that's what I tell everybody. It's a lot better in the last year. So, but we continue to focus on it and try to come up and develop better techniques and tools. One of the tools we are looking into is a app that I did in a previous company where we can do a message and then we can text it to a group of families. We can text it to all families and say, hey, you have an email in your personal email, check it, remind you that the picnic's this week, and it goes to everybody. And we can do that also to our staff. So if there's something going on in the home and they're off, we can text, hey, make sure you read this communication when you get into work today. There's something that's changed. So we are probably in the next year going to have that going. So you will see some stuff like that. We've done some investigation on it, and they're working with us with price and stuff like that. So we are going to try to implement that. And if our IT department eventually can take that over, wonderful. But if not, I think it's well worth that just to make sure we're communicating as often as possible with everybody. Because what I do find is everybody, we only want to tell you the important things, but sometimes there's little things that you just might want to know too. And I think, it's only normal that we could easily let you guys know, And it's you can do it on your computer or your phone. So even if I'm out somewhere and someone brings it up, I'm like, you know what, I'll let everybody know that. So it's just a convenience. Grove menus, we have implemented the food. That was when I came last year, food, and I will say that if you have issues in your home, please let us know because the input has been very positive. I think everybody's seeing change. I think that even the staff are realizing they have menus available, and even if they don't use the Grove menu, they're coming up with creative menus themselves now. So I'm fine with that as long as it looks good and everybody's happy with that. Creative Connections, that was Cogwheel, so that's in-house programming. So we did start that. Some houses have really used that, okay? And I knew the company before I came, and they've been giving us free for the last 9 months. And so we are going to go ahead and purchase from them this program. I am still working with some homes, so if your home's not quite doing, all the programming you'd like to see, let me know, okay? Because I will go and work with them and help them develop that. But a lot of homes that have went in there, not only are they realizing they're having fun doing that, they're enjoying not just sitting there. They're enjoying having games. They're enjoying doing puzzles. They're enjoying the programming of it because the program actually opens up and it actually will walk you through educational. There's games on there. There's music on there. There's exercise on there. So they are really using it and enjoying it. Also, what I've noticed too is if there's some kind of cute activity on Facebook or TikTok, I'm noticing they're using those now because they see, oh, that would be fun. So however we get that activity going in the homes is what matters to us, So I've seen a big improvement. I've seen when I walk into the houses, you can see some of the crafts that they've been doing, and so you can really tell it's at least starting. One thing I did do last year also is Montessori boxes. So the Montessori that program is basically about using what you can, cognitive, PT, OT, little fine motor skills, large motor skills. So there's also what we call a Montessori box that we would have. And what that is we look at the individuals in your home and you say, Marion here might need sensory, okay? You might like to do workshop stuff, okay? So what you do is you buy these individual activities for them, and when something's going on and they don't want to do that activity, you can bring something that she enjoys doing. If it's sensory, we've bought little animals, like stuffed animals that have all different kind of zippers and all that, and some of them just love that. They can sit it on their lap, they're moving the zippers or turning the little knobs. And then we also have people that have screwdrivers and nuts that they're working on that. And so they've got to go through they just let me know, and they go through what they want to order, and then we just order them and we put it in a big box and we tell the staff, this is what this is for, use this. And some of them have even set out stations, and so this resident can just go up and grab his own thing. It's to grow the program, so there's options available for everybody's interest. So this is some of the ideas. So up in the corner is the Montessori box. This is some of the stuff we bought. Here's one that's on, they have it on a table, so anybody can come do it. This is like a little station downstairs just to enjoy. You can go down there and there's the puzzles, there's games, things like that. And then just karaoke. We did karaoke machines in a lot of them. We've done karaoke. We did movie projectors with screens to make it movie nights. We did popcorn machines. Some of them let's make your own popcorn, bag it up. So we've bought those for the homes. So as you can see, they are really enjoying it and engaging. And believe me, I was at that karaoke party, and they didn't want to stop after a couple hours. They tried to get me up there. I do not sing. I talk. I do not sing. So yeah, so they're enjoying that. The restructure, I really think that's focused on communication. When we talked about what needed to be under residential, I feel like, how do you have a residential group, but you don't have, I'm not over the nurses. So it's kind of hard. I have to go talk to someone special, where I can have my meetings weekly with all of my departments, and we can just touch base. Once a week, we just go over what's going on with your department, so all departments know what's going on. So it's not a secret what's going on in residential. If maintenance is fixing a pothole down the street, the nurses know that. I know that. Anybody who's on that call knows that. So when we talked about it, and I talked with Robin about it, we decided, nursing, we have admissions, we have the case coordination under me, we have transportation, we have maintenance. Anything that would happen in the homes is now, under me. And like I said, the purpose is better communication, so that we are on the same page at all times, and I like to be proactive, not reactive. Doesn't mean that we always are, but we at least are talking with each other weekly, and we understand that if there's someone who moved out of a house and we're getting a new admit, is that room painted? Is it set up properly? It's not like the day before the move and maintenance just finds out, oh, we had to paint that? So now we're talking about that. So I think that's one of the big focuses that the restructure did. Also, like I said, being proactive, and then just teamwork, building the census, improving family satisfaction. That all goes with that restructure, because there's many times I'm talking to a family and they'd be like, oh, the fan in his room's not working. So now I have to go back and look and see is there a work order and all that. Now I can just call maintenance and say, hey, the fan's not working, I'll put it in a work order, but I've already given them a heads up, so they know that, try to get it done sooner. So this is just, you've already seen that on her slide, so I will pass over it. Okay, turnover. One thing we've been talking about is staffing a lot, and we still continue to have, the healthcare turnover, but our goal is to at least see some type of change. So this year, as you look, we are at least on the turnover. It went down 2%. I'm happy with that. Okay, one thing I did look at was also our leadership, because I do feel like having stable DSPs means stable leadership. So we have done a little restructure in that area too, but when I looked at it, the residential managers, I think all but 3 have been here over a year, or right at a year. That's huge, because last year when I spoke, we had a lot of openings, so literally they've hit their year mark, and that's pretty good. We have ARMs too, where we expanded some ARMs and we filled all those positions, so they're all full, which is different from last year. And I think I think we have 14 maybe, and 50% of them are over a year now. So at least that's full. So if we can maintain the leadership and we can maintain that, then it will fall down to the staff underneath, because I feel like you're always going to have turnover. You know, that's healthcare. I've been in it for 20 years, and since COVID, it's been terrible. But I do think it always starts with leadership. So we've really focused on that, and we've really done a lot of education on that. Retention, as you can see, it was down. It's now back up a little bit. So I would like to see it back to where it was in 23, and so we are working on that. So, and then, you know, so that's just a little, you know, a little graph showing you that. Okay, so wages and active recruiting. You know, we filled our leadership, like I just said. We currently have 213 staff in residential. Our focus, we've changed how we do leader brief, senior leader brief, and leader brief, because, you know, basically we come together as senior leaders and we have a discussion about what's going on in the buildings, and then that's Robin, and then I go and I do a leader brief to our residential managers and our assistant residential managers, and we were like just talking about, you know, what happened in senior leader. Well, I really wanted to have like an educational piece in there. You know, let's talk about what we need to tell them for their homes, but then let's do an educational piece and try to do a team building piece and try to let that meeting be something when they walk away that as leaders they can go and implement it in their homes. So we've restructured that, and we continue to tweak it all the time, but everybody's really liking that new structure because they can take that to their meetings once a month with their staff. And then we have been doing a lot of leadership courses. If we see a free webinar, I've sent it out to the leaders and asked them to participate in that. And also we've hired a coordinator for training, and I can say, hey, this is an issue I'm seeing in some of the homes. Could you set us up a curriculum for that? And we'll send it out and have them watch that. And that's not just for leaders, that's also for staff, because we want our staff to feel like they're empowered too to become our future leaders. Team morale and growth, you know, we are really focusing on giving them recognition. You know, even at the senior leader, at my leader briefs, at the end, I give a little certificate for someone who's done outstanding or I've had compliments on, you know, give them a little gift to thank them, just so they know that we appreciate that someone's come up and said, oh my gosh, she's done such a great job. This, you know, she did something that was up above and beyond. So we've been doing that, but we want something more formal too that we'll be doing consistently with HR and senior leaders. Okay, transportation and maintenance. So as Robin said, we eliminated the routes to save on the insurance. What they have done, because they've broke down if someone is, if we don't need everybody, they can go home and come back in the afternoon, but we try to look at what can they do to help our residential homes. And what can we do to prevent our DSPs who are already busy in the home to have to go do small tasks. So we developed an app where if I'm a residential manager, I can actually go in and say, I'm ordering groceries tomorrow, and could you pick them up between 1 o'clock? So what they'll do is they'll order their groceries, and then transportation will go pick them up for them and bring it to them. They can say that I have an independent person who just needs us to transport them to the doctor. They don't need us to be in with them. They can say, hey, can you take so-and-so to this doctor's appointment? Because we don't need to have a DSP there. So they will take them and they can bring them back. And it's all in this app so that they know if they've approved it or not. So say that transportation's busy tomorrow, so they can't, so they can say, no, we can't, we are scheduled out already. But it's to be able to communicate back and forth and know that, you know, make plans for that in the future. So our fleet's currently 92 vehicles. We did hire a maintenance man in GMA. That was a project that we got him about, I think this spring maybe. And he's gotten so many of the GMA projects that were pending done, and he is wonderful. I can literally, if something comes up and someone lets me know, I just call Gary, and Gary is right on it. And he's very handy, and he's been a great help. Also, the TELS program, I don't know if anybody's ever heard of it, but it's a tracking tool. It can tell us when surveys are due. It can tell us the ages of our assets in the homes. So we can upload all that in there, and then eventually, if we just implemented it, so we're just starting to upload. So they'll track our equipment, the age of it, see if we need to be possibly doing some maintenance to it. It will do work order system eventually. So all this stuff that we do manually, like if we have a survey and we have information that was fixed on that survey, right now we have Diane doing it. She has a spreadsheet and she uploads it and all that, where that we can put it right in there. So if state comes in, we can open up TELS, we can print out, oh, here's our work orders that we got them done, and blah, blah, blah. So hopefully we're trying to streamline all these systems, and make sure it doesn't have to be hand done all the time. I mean, we still have to upload it, but it's not on a spreadsheet like that. Goals for our restructure. And we talked about starting with emissions, like Robin said, and she touched base on it. We really wanted to be out and about and get our names out and what we do and refresh everybody's memory. We've been here forever, but it's funny when you ask, I was not from this area. So when I'd ask about St. Coletta, some people are like, oh, really? Are they still out there? So we've been discussing that since I came. How do we get our name back out there? We should be the lead name everybody hears, So I think that we took, Nicole's strength of, having the history of St. Coletta, knowing all that, how, what our goals, our mission are. So we are working on, developing those outside resources again, so that when we have a waiting list eventually where people are like, I want to go to St. Coletta. I want my family member to go to St. Coletta. So she's out and about. She's been doing a lot of conferences, provider shows, networking groups, and we've really had a positive response from that. And that's great. And then when they come and we get our applications, we're really focusing on, can we meet their needs? Not just take somebody because, oh, we have an opening over here. Are we going to give them a good quality of life? Are we able to meet all of their needs? Because we can't meet every single person's needs. And sometimes, even though we may be able to put that person in that home, what does it do for their peers there? Does it take away care from them? So we are really analyzing it closely and looking and making sure that when we move someone in, we know it's a good peer fit in that home. We know our staffing level is appropriate for that home. And we know that it's going to be the best fit possible, and it should be a successful transition. And they should be happy. They should have a very fulfilled life there. So that's what we've been really concentrating on. And so far, it's been great. We have obviously done well in that, because last year when I was here, we had 20 openings in Jefferson. As of this week, I think we have 3. So that's a huge, huge difference. So, and everybody's been very successful in that transition. We haven't had complaints from families. I mean, they knew when they came in this was going to be the right fit. So that's awesome. GMA continues to be full. We might have an opening here or there, but then they instantly get somebody in there because they do have a waiting list, which is wonderful to our program. And then Illinois, they've had, over the winter, they had some unexpected deaths. So they're at 3 right now. So we are, filling those back up. But as Robin said, we also are looking at, they're a little bit more hard to fill because some of their homes are 2-story. Okay, so if that home opens up and is a 2-story, and we only have people who have, wheelchairs, or they are difficult walking, we can't fill them that position. So we've been talking a lot about internal movement, possibly moving people that would be better fits in different homes. We've been looking at, things like that. What does that look like for them? The nursing director role, we really felt that was necessary. We really needed someone to take the healthcare in the homes and really coordinate that. And one of the goals that we gave Dan was to not only develop more training on not only hands-on, but they do videos, videos also. So they've done, Claire's videotaped them. They do hands-on. They're going into the homes. And so if I'm struggling at my home because of, doing MedPass, they're going in and helping them and giving them tools and talking them through and try to get them more comfortable with what, how to give that med in that active situation with everybody. We are going to be hiring another nurse. That was one of the things that has been told me several times. Can we have another nurse? And we're going to focus on GMA. That we will have a presence in Milwaukee, because we have nurses in Illinois. Our nurses are housed here now, and then we will have nursing in Milwaukee. This will enable them to actually visually see that person instead of sitting there trying to talk over the phone with the residential coordinator or the residential manager. And so that way we can at least get some assessments. They're not going to be there 24/7, but they will be there. They'll be in and out of the homes, and then they also, most of our residents do go to day programming, so there'll be a hub there also, so that they can be right there and see the majority of our residents. We did switch the pharmacies this year. I think everybody knows that, so that was done. We still sometimes have a few little tweaks here and there, but we are still working those through. One thing that was interesting is most places are no lift policy. So if someone falls down, even if they're not injured, but they can't get themselves up, we're really not to lift them up. And so you would have to call non-emergency. That's not just here. And so we were having some people that are declining. So they would, have accidents and fall down, but they weren't strong enough to come up with us. So we started having to call the non-emergency more and more. So they were talking about, well, if we continue, they charge this nursing home for those lifts, that, they wanted to start charging us. So we immediately started talking about what could we do. So we went out and we bought these lifts. And so those lifts, you can literally kind of roll them onto that, and then it goes up. And it can either go up to a seat where they can actually push themselves up, or it will bring it all the way up to a stand. So we've bought 3 of those so far. And the nursing goal would be that we get them as many as we can, eventually throughout the building. But we right now have it where we can go take it to a home, or they know where they're at. But that is going to be very helpful in some of our more medical needed, the ones that have more medical needs in their homes. So we have them there right now. Also, in one of our homes that's got high medical need, we do vitals every week, of course, some every day, but they bought in hospital grade vital machine, and the staff's just loving that. So you might see me send out hey, does anyone help buy one of these for your home? Just FYI, because I will always send it first. And so these are just things that we are excited about, once again, concentrating on the aging population in our homes. So this is exciting for us. We are working on expanding our healthcare system. So we have reached out, and we already work with Rainbow Hospice. I have them down at the bottom, and they come in for anybody who is, getting to that stage where they need to be on hospice, and we need that little extra TLC. So, but we decided, we've reached out. Harmony Medical Group has physicians, and they have nurse practitioners. They have 24-hour nursing. They will help us with anybody who's in the hospital. They have their own labs that come. They have imaging that can come to the house. And this way, it's an option for any of the families here that if you don't want to any longer have them take your loved one out to the primary, that you can sign and have them be your primary. They come here, they visually see them, and they will treat them. And then that way, what we're seeing is a lot of our residents are now needing to be medicated before they go to a doctor's visit because they get anxious. They don't want to not go to programming. They're, so we're seeing that. We're seeing behaviors at the doctors. And if anybody's in healthcare, this is what's normal. There's usually a physician that comes there. That's an option to anybody. So what you see and what I've seen over the years is people who don't like to go to the doctor, when they see a doctor coming all the time, they get to know that person and they're like more comfortable with that person, even if they're not being seen that day. Or we'll have, they have an office and their friends going into that office and they're like, what are you doing? Oh, I'm seeing my doctor. Oh, can I go? That's what you do because you want to do it with your friend. So this is an option that we are going to start rolling out. So and actually Harmony's out, they have a booth out here just if you have questions about them. They are going to put a booth out here for us so you guys can talk to them about it. But they are where we're hoping to see less ER. Less urgent care, because literally if we think that Sherry has a UTI going, we'll call them, and if they don't want to see us, they'll go ahead and have labs come and take care of that. Then they'll give us the antibiotic, and then usually that'll be up to them how often they come. A lot of times it's once a week. They might then say, okay, well we'll come see them in 3 days to ensure that antibiotic's working. They will treat them right there. They're not going to say, oh, go to the ER. They're going to go do what they need to do. So we're excited about that. Also, preferred podiatry. We have a lot of podiatry appointments, and we take them, and a lot of times it's a struggle. Okay, so they also are going to offer to come in, and they will do office hours here, which you'll usually see, is they'll do so many each time they come. And they'll do it right here on campus. They'll do it in Milwaukee, and they'll do it in Illinois for us. So that way, again, hopefully you wouldn't have to medicate, because I will tell you from experience, what I see is everybody's lined up to go get their toes done, and even if it's not time for my toes, I'm like, oh, you're getting your toes done? Oh, can I get in line? And like they laugh because we were talking about it because I've been in this so long, and they'll laugh that, oh, sure, come, and they'll just look at them for them, if they want to, because it's not time for them to get theirs done. But it doesn't become scary. It's something that everybody's doing, so it's okay. So we're excited about these because our goal is to meet the needs of all of our population. And eventually we have wheelchairs, and people that aren't able to do what they used to do. These services are a great option, but they're also great now because we're going to have a room down, we're going to have a room designated on campus, so they can do big groups, like not, an office, so they can come in and do as many as they can. But that, like the Harmony Medical, if someone's sick, they'll go to the house too. So we're getting best of two worlds because not very many providers will go to the house. They'll go to the groups, but they won't go to the house if they're sick. So that's awesome. And then this is just kind of a breakdown of Harmony, health for us, telling you that they have one primary care, they have RN care managers, they have the advanced practice providers and the medical assistants. They offer all this to us. They have they'll do all the managing of our pharmacy, the labs, diagnostic, and they have a portal. So just like Robin said, they will have a portal that you guys can see, just like my chart, so you can see what they did, what they ordered, and you can communicate with them back and forth. So that's always nice too. So our focus this coming year is building a stronger residential program by offering these outside providers, expanding our healthcare system to the campus, to our campuses, and updating our medical equipment and making sure that our staff know how to use that medical equipment and that they're comfortable with it. So we're going to be expanding our hands-on training from the nurses. We'll also ask these outside vendors to do trainings. So that's kind of a nice thing. We've already discussed, Dan and I have discussed doing like a skills seminar and break it down so many a quarter and have the vendors come in and discuss approaches, how to, questions that they have. They can discuss how to use the equipment properly. And sometimes when you bring outside vendors in, they listen a little bit better than, oh, Dan's telling us again, Sherry's telling us again. When they hear it from somebody else, sometimes they're like, oh, okay, I get that. And you're like, okay, well, I've said that 10 times, but now you got it. But I think anything we can do to make education fun, make it more interesting, is what we need to be working on. So we are also, working with all the departments to help support the residents, to ensure all healthcare, spiritual, social, and emotional needs are being met. And this is in the programming, not only in our programming on campus, but in the homes. So we have really been working with Mario about making sure that our homes have, the pastors come, the priests come. We're talking about, outings, changing how those outings go, how we can provide those, and really working with outside people to come in and do that. Even as simple as, like I said, if we can't take someone to Mass or to church, on that cogwheel, there's on Sundays, there's a link to different church services. Make that what we do that morning. Bring that back into the home. Not everybody has to sit out there and watch it, but we at least have that from 9 to 10. So that's stuff that we're working on developing, that it's uniform across the board. And then just a clear plan on our aging population. We want to ensure that they're able to age in place and that we can take care of them. Because, they should be able to age in place as long as they can, walk safely. We have medical assistance available in the homes, and that their condition, really the only time we shouldn't be able to probably is like if they get some kind of wound that happens when you age, something like that, because we wouldn't have nurses right there all the time. But we hope that we reduce the need for urgent cares, ER visits, hospital stays, if we're proactive by having the additional services available. But when we talk about looking at the aging population, that does look like we have to also consider staffing levels. We also have to decide, what does that require? So does this house specialize in, Hoyers? They have Hoyers, so they always have enough staff, because this staff only has one. So even though you live here now, we may have to transfer you to a different house where they have staff that can meet that needs. So that's where, as families, we have to understand that sometimes it's not that we want to move them from that home, but if we don't have the staff to take care of them, are we doing them any justice? And we can't. So as we age, those are discussions that we will talk about, So and like in Illinois, that looks like, what does this look like? Your house is a 2-story house. Is that something that we can, maintain? Because right now we have 3 people that, can't go downstairs or upstairs, that are wanting in. So we're looking at all that. And then exciting news, a lot of, like Robin took all my glory, we did a lot of facelifts. Hopefully you see that. I know when I did all of Jefferson Homes yesterday, a lot of, we, in the spring we said, get some picnic tables, get your lawn chairs, do this stuff. Let's bring it home. Let's make it look more home-like. So I'm hoping all your homes you've noticed that they're trying to, we want it to be like a home. We want it to feel like a home, that we could come and sit down and talk and you enjoy the areas we have. We also are getting a cell phone that in each house. So that way, when you call, we've had it where our phone lines went out because internet was out. So we'll have a cell phone available to call. And then also it helps, like if there's something we have to med passes, things like that. So for us, it's nice because we can also make that a hot spot for our med passes to keep our paperwork where it needs to go. And even on outings, we can do the same thing. We can use that to, document our meds. We can take pictures with that. We're going to upload it to an area where everybody can easily send you guys pictures of what's going on. We did prep and we sold Spring Street Home in Jefferson, and then currently we are prepping Washington Street Apartments for sale for the future. We only had 2 people in there. They were, and that home is in need of some repairs that were expensive, and they're moving into an apartment complex that we already service and we already go see people at. So the family understood that that's probably not, we don't staff that. They're more independent people that just live there. So then I just want to say thank you for not only giving money, but really during these times where our budget is tight, we've had so much donation of food for parties. We've had so many parties, and we try to do them regularly, and not just last night. I would like to see an event every month that you guys could come to and have something. So that's been nice. Flowers for gardens. A couple of homes had a cookout, and then you brought your flowers and donated flowers and pots and all that. That was great. Furniture. I walk into a house and they're like, oh yeah, so-and-so donated that new furniture. Well, that's awesome, that's great. So every little bit you do helped us meet our budget goals. And that's truly what it's all about too, is making sure nobody goes without and that everybody's living their best life. All right, Mario.
Hi, good morning. So I'm just going to give you an update of our spiritual events, the census numbers and growth in the spiritual programs, recreational programs, and then upcoming events for Sister Grace. So in our spirituality areas, we have, since our last meeting, we had the Founders Day celebration. And you could see here we started with lunch, and then the bishop came to bless our Assisi Hall entrance and lead us in Mass. And then later, the bishop met with the sisters and Robin. Then we have increased our IGC Mass from once a month to twice a week. And then we also started the Jesus Loves Me program there for twice a month. Here we have that every week, but there we have twice a month. Then we started choir there for also twice a month. Then in October, we celebrated the passing of St. Francis from this life to the next, with Robin reading actually the history of how Francis passed on, and with our clients and the staff reenacting that event. Then on the feast day of St. Francis, we blessed pets, and since most of our clients don't have pets, Robin gave them out stuffed animals, which they enjoy a lot. And then we closed our fountain, and we celebrated the Jubilee of our sisters. With Mass, with food again, and Robin gave each one of them a long steam rose. And December, we started with the blessing of our outside nativity scene. Then we have our Christmas Mass with our clients again reenacting the scene of Christmas. And then we have our Nova Choir concert. Then we have Christmas parties in all 3 program areas. You can see there. And then in February of the following year, 2025, we celebrated our staff who celebrated their milestones in their number of years of service here at St. Coletta. We acknowledged 40 staff for their combined total of 386 years of service to St. Coletta. Isn't that great? And then, of course, the presidential awardees. And this is the game show, the most enjoyable event of the week. Then we blessed our pilgrims who were going to Assisi the month of February. And when they came back, they brought all these holy waters. You know, we pour those waters in our fountain. So that gives us connection to our Assisi headquarters, and then also with our mother house. And then we had the Lenten retreat. Our topic for our recollection here is how to experience spiritual happiness by following the spirit of the Beatitudes. Then at the end, actually, they made their happy book, putting down there what are the things they could do to experience spiritual happiness. And then we have imposition of ashes again in all three program areas. And we started the Holy Week celebration with the blessing of palms and with our clients reenacting the entrance of Jesus to Jerusalem. Then we had Father Tom come and say Mass for Holy Thursday with our clients, again reenacting the Last Supper. And then Father Tom leading us the Good Friday adoration of the Holy Cross. That's the pictures. And then this is the Mass at IGC, Good Friday adoration. And then May, we have May crowning, and that is the time also when we honor our female staff, and with Robin giving them long stem roses, and the crowning, of course, of the statue of Blessed Mother. Then we reopen our fountain, and those are our pilgrims with those holy waters that they brought back from Assisi being poured back into our fountains. And then Father Tom blessed those two benches that were actually donated by the Knights of Columbus in honor of our three clients who used to be members of the Knights of Columbus. Then we have our client recognition, where we honored 52 clients with a combined total of 1,385 years of participation in our St. Coletta programs. Yes. And then, of course, the bishop invited us for his Mass at his chapel in honor of the Jubilee of Persons with Disabilities. And then he invited our clients again for a day at the Devil's Lake, which he entitled Christ, Community, and Ice Cream. Then, of course, we visited the mother house because most of our sisters are not able to come anymore. But still, some of them came back and visited us too. So, Robin told you about the new Achieve program headquarters. We blessed that in March. And these are the census in numbers and growth in our spiritual activities. Because of the initiative that we have started in our mission integration program with our various programs and homes, look at the number of people coming to Mass increased from number 91 to 110. In GMA, we have now 35 people there going to Mass. In Illinois, from 25 to 37. Our weekly rosary increased from 20 to 31. And during the Lenten season, we have the number of people attending Stations of the Cross every Friday from 50 to 70. And the Jesus Loves Me program, 75 to 95. GMA, 31. Nova Choir from 40 to 50. And in GMA, we have 35. So, Robin already talked about our recreation program redevelopment. And these are just some of the examples of the recreation activities run by our recreation department. The Zumba, art class. And now, Sister Grace update. We have two big events in honor of Sister Grace that we are going to celebrate this month and in October. First is the 70th profession anniversary of Sister Grace. And in October, Sister Grace's 90th birthday. Most of us who work with Sister Grace couldn't see the impact of aging in her work life. She continued to come 5 days a week and sometimes even on weekends. See? The only area that we have seen a big change is in the area where she spends her recreation activities. When she was younger, she used to ride her motorcycle around our St. Coletta property. Now that she has gotten older, she has changed her recreational activities. Instead of riding the motorcycle, she now rides helicopters. So you can see there with Mr. Hood and Jen. So now we call her the Flying Nun. So, Sister Grace. Thank you all for coming. Now we're ready to take questions, if you have any.
Any questions from anyone? Okay, well, we went a little long, but I think it was good information. Thank you so much for sticking with us. Oh, did you have a question, Russell?
Yes, I do. First of all, let me start with the thing that I am thankful for. I am thankful for peace that all my neighbors and I can walk to the backyard, I can walk to Rick's house.
Very good. Amen to that, Russell. Thank you. Okay. Okay, well, thank you all again for coming. Enjoy the picnic. If you have any questions and you want to talk to any of us leaders on the side, we're going to be around all day. So God bless you guys, and thanks again for coming today. Have a great one.
Is Mario still around? I'm looking for Mario. Yeah, I don't know how to turn everything off.